Time, the unstoppable unit of measure, the dimension of opportunity. Ask any business person about time, and they'll tell you that they never have enough. Time to seek out new customers, time to plan for the future, time to nurture the important business relationships that can mean success. What would it mean to you to be able to free your mind of the seemingly endless little bits of information that you need to know, the countless milestones that you have to meet every day, and instead focus on what's really important, exceeding the expectations of your customers and contacts because you alone never miss a commitment. You alone take a personal interest in their lives, their businesses, their success. If this sounds more like a video on business philosophy than a software product, fear not. Because more than any other item that you can purchase for your company, on or off a computer, ACT will do the most to improve the crucial function of your business. Building strong relationships with the people you do business with.
Every business that I know has customers, has prospects. And the better you take care of those customers and those prospects, the better you're going to do. So the key to ACT really is that it allows you to do just that. It allows you to stay in contact with your customers, your prospects.
People do business with the people they trust. ACT was designed to take care of the details and let you concentrate on building your relationships and fulfilling the needs of your customers and prospects.
I don't think that there is any traffic jam on the extra mile. And anything that I can do to move me into that extra mile where it's not so crowded allows me to stand head above shoulders to my competition.
ACT focuses on the people you deal with. Each of your contacts has a separate contact screen that brings all of the information you need to know about that person in front of you. There's an area for scheduling phone calls, meetings, and to-dos, and a reminder of the reason for the action. ACT lets you schedule an unlimited number of activities with each of your contacts. Most business people don't type, so ACT was designed for the one-finger typist. ACT's main menu contains all of the functions you'll use every day, and moving through them takes only one finger. You just select the first letter of the function you want, or use the cursor key, or your mouse to highlight the function. Additional functions are also available on the pull-down menus with the touch of a finger. So if you hate typing, you'll love working with ACT. There are 15 fields that you can tailor to store the information that is most important to you. And pop-up windows for these fields contain a selection of entries that you type most frequently. With one keystroke, you enter the complete response. And if you meet someone new in a company you've been dealing with, you don't have to retype the company name and address. ACT automatically inserts the company name, street address, city, state, and zip with only one keystroke. You can keep track of as many contacts as you want to in any company. Now let's see how three people, a sales representative, an MIS manager, and an entrepreneur, are using ACT to master their schedules and free themselves from the many time-consuming tasks that bog us down every day. First, let's visit with Carla Lundy in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and see how ACT has become an integral part of her job. Carla is a sales representative for Carnation in a 5-county area of western Pennsylvania. Her appointments usually keep her on the road 8 hours a day.
What sales means to me is it's all about money for the company and for me. The more I'm able to produce, the more dollar bills I see. I mean, that's what sales is all about. It's a bottom line figure. And you really just try to meet, really you want to meet the company's goals, but you really want to exceed them if you can. Take my computer with me every day.
Okay, this is the office over here.
Normally when I get to an office, I turn it back on just to review. I do pre-call planning, so I review my notes from my previous visits and try to gather some objectives that I want to go into the sales call with. And I go in, give my presentation, and when I get back out to my car, I turn the program on again. And usually it's already at the first profile that I'm working with for the day. And I immediately enter my call.
ACT's Week-at-a-Glance feature gives you an overall picture of your schedule with one keystroke. You decide the duration of any activity, 5 minutes, 4 hours, a day, or a month. This way you won't try to schedule a meeting during your 2 weeks of sand and surf in Jamaica. The Day-at-a-Glance feature lists your calls, meetings, and to-dos with the time and contact's name. At 8 a.m., your day is all planned and you're ready to go, while others are still trying to find their coffee cups under all the stacks of papers. At 10 a.m., you've accomplished a morning's work, and the others are still trying to get organized.
I like the fact that it stores a lot of information that I use every day. I keep a list, let's say, of physicians who are doing a sample program, or I can kind of put into the program ways that I can pull up physicians that I've put on a certain program.
It's 1:15, and your boss wants you on the first plane to Chicago tomorrow for a 1-hour meeting with an important customer. The early return flights are full, and you'll have productive hours that could be lost. ACT's powerful lookup feature helps you make the most effective use of your time. In a matter of seconds and a few keystrokes, you're looking at a list of your contacts in Chicago, and you've got plenty of time to call them to set up a visit. Back in your office the next day, and the phone rings. It's Drew Mitchell, and he has a question about a conversation you had with him 2 months ago. Instead of telling him you'll get back to him, you quickly find his record by entering the first few letters of his name or the name of his company. With the date-stamped notes attached to his contact screen, you answer his question in a few seconds. No stuttering and stammering or embarrassing silences while you try to recall the conversation. Drew hangs up knowing you value him and your relationship.
I think what they've noticed is that I can remember what we talked about before. And the only reason why I'm able to know that is because it's recorded in my notes. And I always pretty much start my conversation with the doctor was, during our last meeting we discussed da-da-da-da-da. And it kind of brings back, because he sees representatives all day long. And there's something about me that would have to stand out.
ACT also benefits companies with large, regionalized sales forces. Brent Halls is a manager in the college division of William C. Brown Publishing, located in Dubuque, Iowa. They print college textbooks and have sales representatives throughout the United States. Brent's job is to ensure that the salespeople are equipped with the tools to make them as productive and successful as possible.
Our company's bywords are innovation, quality, and service. And I think we do a very good job with that. And the record shows that. And we wanted something that would allow them to utilize their personality as they have always done, and yet would still automate many of the details and would be flexible enough that it would match their individual style. Our reps have a lot of work to do. They have a lot of contacts to keep track of in any given selling season or year. And it's really an overwhelming job in that respect without some form of computerized system.
ACT is simple enough for a one-person office, but has the power and flexibility to operate in a demanding mainframe environment.
One of the things that I thought was absolutely mandatory in establishing a computer program for our sales force was giving them a computer that already had information that pertained to them, to their specific territory. And this we were able to do. ACT enabled us, because of its formatting, or rather importing capabilities, to take names out of our mainframe computer and load them onto our sales reps' computers, so that the day our sales reps received their computers, they had their territory already installed. This eliminated the need for them to go in and type what would amount to several thousand names per territory into their computers.
ACT meets the needs of individuals and the way they're used to working, while giving them the power to accomplish tasks that might have otherwise gone undone.
One of the things that our reps are asked to do is to constantly be on the lookout for professors who would be interested in reviewing textbooks that we publish or in writing textbooks. And our sales reps were able, in some cases, to go through and look up groups of professors in certain disciplines. And one sales rep produced 800 letters in their territory that went out to all the professors in those particular disciplines that she was targeting.
It's been a busy week. Lots of calls, lots of sales visits, and lots of follow-up letters to write. ACT's full-function word processor makes the task a breeze. Select the people you want to write, and the word processor will merge the group with a selected form letter. It will also spell check the document with its 80,000-word dictionary. 20 letters or 800 in only a few keystrokes. ACT will even print the envelopes or mailing labels for you.
One of the things that I see as a benefit in the way ACT has helped us is that information that before used to be scattered far and wide in call reports or other forms of paper is now available there at a lookup's notice, so to speak. The information can be gathered by our reps, provided to their regional managers, provided to us here in-house for purposes of analyzing that data. We can use it to determine and get an idea of market share, potential reviewers, things like that.
The head office calls and wants a report of your activities for the last month by the end of the day. Normally an all-day task. But with ACT, it takes a couple of minutes. Just select the Activities Completed report from the Reports menu and use the pop-up calendar to select the date range. In seconds, the report is coming out of your printer and you can get back to your customers. Now let's visit with someone in the early stages of an entrepreneurial adventure. Jim Carter is president of News Pager Corporation of America. Headquartered in Dallas, Texas, his company has brought news storage and database technology to the pager industry. Now end users can receive news stories, stock reports, and sports statistics on their pagers. Jim's company is dealing with paging companies in Europe, North America, and Asia. This puts some unique constraints on his time.
Usually when I arrive at the office, it's late afternoon in London. First things first would be take care of what needs to be done in Europe. And you're already an hour behind the East Coast of the United States. If I want anything done with the people at British Telecom, for instance, I only have about an hour and a half when I get in the morning to get that accomplished. My primary device for controlling my personal activity is with Contact's ACT program. And I use it as the focal point of my personal time control.
An important customer calls and has several things he'd like you to do. You enter them into ACT with one finger while you're on the phone. No more scraps of paper that can get lost. No more embarrassing phone calls to confirm details. ACT can schedule as many calls, meetings, and to-dos as you need with each of your contacts. Later, ACT's Memory Resident Alarm reminds you of the commitments you've designated as critical, even if you're using another software package at the time.
The use of the ACT's history capability is I keep a running track of what has been done with each account.
No more manual call reports or activity logs. With ACT, you automatically keep track of everything you do with your contacts as you make entries on the contact screens. So you'll always know the date you sent them a proposal or the last time you talked with them. No guesswork or searching for the information. People do business with the people they trust. ACT gives you the ability to make specific commitments and keep them without fail. Your customers can count on you because you are effective. You do things that make a difference. ACT helps you invest your time the right way.
It puts me in charge of my time and allows me to schedule what's happening to me and when it's going to happen, and at the same time ensures that I'm not going to lose anything in the process.
The time spent out in the field before where I was doing a lot of writing, I was able actually at the end of my day to pick up an extra call. So, and that's that's what the company looked for. That was a big seller for getting the computers in general. I was a lot more efficient.
Today's business climate, with the advent of facsimile and next-day delivery in most places in the world of written information, it becomes even more important that you don't let anything fall through the cracks.
It's a great product. It's done what we wanted it to do. We feel like it has given us the productivity advantages that we sought.
Well, I just think that everybody is trying to do more with less, and ACT is a way to do more with less.
Remember, business is a contact sport, and with ACT, you'll never be caught off guard. Call about our risk-free offer and the name of the dealer nearest you. For a further explanation and in-depth demonstration of the award-winning ACT, please stay tuned to a special presentation by Mike Muni, Executive Vice President and co-founder of Contact Software.
Hi, my name is Mike Muni. I'm the Executive Vice President and co-founder of Contact Software International. I'd like to thank you first and foremost for the time that you are granting us in watching this presentation of ACT. Before I actually begin the presentation, though, I'd like to just raise a few issues that I think we really need to address in business today that are being forced upon us whether we like it or not. What Lotus 123 did for people who deal with numbers, ACT has proven to do for people who deal with people. In other words, we need to get not just more productivity out of our relationships with people, but more effective aspects of those relationships that we have with people, and ACT delivers that capability. It's interesting that in many magazines that are coming out today, there are cover stories that address some ongoing needs. For example, Success Magazine had a cover story on everybody sells. It's really true. Everybody does sell. I really don't care what kind of job you have and what your responsibility is in your company. We all represent ourselves and or our company that we're employed by. We're always in the process of selling, and in that mode, it's our responsibility to earn the right and to develop better customer relationships. The target of everybody selling, and everybody selling better and more competitively, is to treat the customer as if they were king. Business Week entitled their cover story to this very topic not long ago. The quest to treat the customer as if they were king can't be satisfied by a 99% effort. Let me give you some interesting statistics on just a 99% effort. In a magazine entitled Competitive Advantage not long ago, there was this short article. Imagine this, if you will. If we lived with 99 and 9/10% satisfaction, here's what would occur each day of our lives. Number one, we'd have 1 hour of unsafe drinking water every month. 2 unsafe plane landings per day at O'Hare International Airport. 16,000 pieces of mail lost by the U.S. Post Office every hour. 22,000 checks deducted from the wrong bank accounts every hour. Those are pretty amazing. Let me ask you, what would be the effect of your not attaining 100% satisfaction with your customers? What does it mean in lost sales, in customer dissatisfaction? We really need to strive for improving what we already have and being the best at it. And again, in that capacity, ACT delivers. Let me now introduce you to the product ACT, and in that process, demonstrate how it fulfills the issues that I've previously raised. First of all, we use pull-down menus. This represents the entire decision structure of the product, giving you all the selections you need to find anything that you need to do with the people you deal with. Also notice in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, it now indicates that I have 1,219 profiles or contacts that I personally deal with. I can also tell you that nothing is slipping through the cracks in my dealing with any of those 1,219 people. And that number continues to grow. One of the other things that continues with that is that this becomes more valuable to me over time because data is constantly being added to each of these people's contact records. This is Dr. Harry Jacobson's contact record, or his profile. And I'd like to just explain a few of the components of what that's comprised of. First of all, the name of the organization that he's employed by, in this case, Vanderbilt University Medical Center. ACT has the ability to allow larger text in a field than appears on the screen. They contact himself or herself, their phone number, extension. If they're in a foreign country, the country code that ACT can auto-dial, because it does have that function as well if you have a modem. That person's title, their secretary or assistant, in this case Judy, how you want to address this person in the correspondence, the word processing aspect of ACT that we'll get into momentarily, their normal address information. Then we move down to the activity portion of the contact record. You notice next to the words call, meeting, and to-do, there is a triangle, a downward triangle. This signifies that there are actually additional activities behind what appears on the screen. ACT has the ability to schedule infinite activities per contact, an unlimited amount of calls, meetings, and to-dos, and you can specify a duration time for each of those. It also indicates the time and what this specific activity is in regards to so that you can keep track of what each of them are. Moving down, we indicate the last results from the previous meeting or the previous phone call that you may have had with this individual. What is their ID status? Any designation that you want to give them that will allow you later to pull together a specific targeted group. And who referred you to this person? The referred by field is an interesting field in and of itself because it represents networking in action, how we came to know this individual by way of a magazine, word of mouth, another friend, etc. It really helps us continue to build our path of our contacts. Going on from there, this portion of the screen that I'm now on, where it indicates next objective, represents the beginning of what allows you to customize this to your specific job requirements and needs. I've named this field next objective, characteristic, reports to, etc., because that's what I want to track on this individual. However, you might and probably will need different field names, so you can change them accordingly. This represents screen 1 of the contact, or the front side of the contact record, if you will. The back side represents a second address area. This is Dr. Jacobson's home address and phone number. I've got an area for 2 assistants, or avenues that I can also reach him through. We then move down to 6 additional user-definable fields, beginning with family. I have his wife's name and her birthday, Dr. Jacobson's hobbies, his specific birthday, and room for other information. At the bottom of the screen is further information that is both statistical and functional for ACT. That's screen 1 and screen 2 for a contact, but a contact is comprised of much more than that, as you'll see in a moment, because it includes unlimited notes and an unlimited history file. I'm going to defer showing that to you for just a couple moments here. I also want you to know that ACT has a very powerful and tightly integrated calendar function. People and activities go together. When you deal with anybody, typically that entails further activities with that person in an ongoing basis, and who's to do what and when. You know, it's not just the know-how on how to deal with people, it's also as important to realize the know-when to do things. You can have all the know-how in the world, but without the know-when, little is accomplished. ACT also contains a week-at-a-glance calendar that indicates to you how you've scheduled your calls, meetings, and to-dos by day of the week and hour of the day. The activities themselves, the calls, meetings, and to-dos, are indicated in different color schemes. Meetings be in the middle or the red on your screen as you see them. This is really a full 24-hour scrollable calendar, just showing the segments 7 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night presently. You'll notice tomorrow, for example, at the bottom of the screen, it indicates that I have 6 phone calls scheduled and 17 things to do. The following day, I have 2 phone calls scheduled, 2 meetings, and 4 things to do. I can page down and look at next week, and you see that a good portion of the week is blocked out for 1 meeting. I'm actually at a convention and cannot schedule other activities during that time period. But the point is, it's keeping track of everything. Now, on either calendar, I could cursor over to any day, or I could actually scan a date range on either calendar and have it bring up who those activities are tied to. I'm going to defer that for a few moments and continue on. Now, let's paint a scenario here. Let's presume that Dr. Jacobson has called me. I'm going to receive his phone call. So I'm going to say phone, and now hit the letter R for received. I don't have to go down to the selection. I can just hit the first character, but I've received his call. And ACT is now recorded in his history file that a call was received, and I'll show you that in a moment. But Dr. Jacobson called me for a reason. So now what I want to do is to edit the results of this last contact. Now this is your first glimpse into what is very common throughout ACT, and that is that most of the fields in ACT have their own user-definable pop-up window. In other words, regarding my last results, I can predict fairly accurately the types of things that will occur in my job, as you can in yours. Now, it is common in our company that we take a lot of orders, and Dr. Jacobson called me to place an order for additional copies of ACT. So I'm going to hit the letter O in this case. If you notice on your screen, the letter O designates that he has ordered product. He also is requesting that I come and do an executive presentation, which is selection J. So I'm going to now hit 2 keystrokes, the letter O and the letter J, and notice on the last results field that it now says ordered, wants executive presentation, simply by hitting 2 keystrokes. That's also part of the beauty of ACT, is that we don't make you sit in front of the computer and become an excellent typist, which very few of us are. What we want you to do is to spend the minimal amount of time on the computer to maximize your time with that customer, to again make them feel like they're king. I mentioned earlier that a contact is comprised of more than just screen 1 and screen 2. Let me take this point to show you how much more information is contained in a contact record. Each contact has an area for unlimited notes. This is an area for you to put in miscellaneous information, directions to their office, the terms of a contract negotiation, whatever it is that you might want to additionally capture. ACT automatically date stamps today's date, so you're always looking at the most recent notes and can scroll back in time through previous and older notes in an unlimited fashion. Also, in addition, each contact or profile is comprised of an unlimited history file whereby every transaction that you've ever performed with that individual is automatically recorded by ACT. Remember a few moments ago when I received the call from Dr. Jacobson and that I input via 2 keystrokes, the results being that he ordered more ACT and he wants an executive presentation. The ACT screen is indicating to me that I've actually performed 322 transactions with Dr. Jacobson since I first started dealing with him. Let's take a look at all of those transactions, all of my calls, meetings, results, letters, to-dos, everything that I've done with this individual since I first met him. This really allows me, my company, and my successors to reconstruct and continue to pursue excellent relationships with the people that our company deals with. And here we are back to May 10th of 1987 when I first made a call to Dr. Jacobson that has led to quite a rewarding relationship with him today. You've now seen Dr. Jacobson's entire contact record, screen 1 and screen 2, unlimited notes, and an unlimited history file that goes back to May of 1987. The point I want to make here is this: information is not expensive to us. Ignorance is what's expensive in business. Not having the information or access to it, not knowing where we came from to help us know where to get to, is very costly to us. Now that Dr. Jacobson has ordered some more ACT and wants an executive presentation, this means that I now have to schedule some further activities on top of what is already scheduled for him. In this case, I want to schedule another to-do. Notice on the bottom of the screen the entire list of all of my currently scheduled activities. At the bottom right hand of your screen, you'll see that it says that I have a total of 12 activities now scheduled, and this is another one that I'm going to enter. I want to do this in a day, so I hit the letter D, and it notates October 3rd, and it's in regards to selection N that I'll cursor down to for your benefit, but again, I only have to hit the first letter, selection N. I want to enter that I have to process and send his ACT order, and I want to accept that as an additional to-do. Notice that my screen now says that the next to-do scheduled is to process and send his order. If I instantly go to the calendar and say, what am I doing tomorrow on October 3rd, here are all of my calls, meetings, and to-dos. And notice over in the to-dos window that I have Vanderbilt University already included, process and send the ACT order, and I'm now back on Dr. Jacobson's profile. So people and activities and your calendar functions are tightly integrated. Instantaneous update. Because Dr. Jacobson has just ordered some more product from me and that this represents a repeat order, I'd like to take the opportunity to send him a thank you letter. How many of you take advantage of those kind of opportunities? Because they really can generate goodwill if you think about it. So let's write him a letter. I simply select Write, Letter, ACT dates it and addresses it for me. It already had that information, so why enter it again? I could enter a new letter, or I can go and select a previously written letter that says precisely what I want to say to him with a lot less effort. Here's the letter that I've previously written to some other people on repeat orders, and now I very simply select Print. It prints this off on the printer, and in that process also automatically updates his history file, notating that I sent him a letter on today's date called Thanks Order 2. ACT has a powerful word processor contained within it and is enabling me to write letters very quickly to my clients. In this case, a thank you letter to Dr. Jacobson for his order. You know, it's my belief that there's no traffic jam on the extra mile, and since few people travel there, those that do tend to win business more often than not. We all have competition, and we all need a competitive edge, and ACT delivers via this kind of opportunity. You've seen how we can accommodate working with an individual very effectively. One of the nice things about ACT is we're able to exponentially deal with many people even more effectively because of its powerful lookup capabilities. So let's go there for a moment. This really represents the heart of ACT because it's from here that you can comb through your data and pull out any kind of information you need against your request. let's say that, for example, you'd like to know, Mike, out of your 1,219 contacts or profiles that you're dealing with, how many of them work for MGM? Well, let's find out. Let's do a lookup on MGM. Very simply type it in, and ACT instantaneously has found 95 MGM people that I deal with. I have the ability to deal with multiple people at any one organization. There is no limit to the number of people that you can deal with at an organization. As a matter of fact, if you need to change information across that list of people in a company, ACT has the capability to do that. For example, what if they move to a new location? By making one entry in ACT, it will update the addresses for each of these 95 people in this case. This really represents powerful list management capabilities because I can do many things from here. I could generate reports, I could write form letters, I could send what appears to be personal letter to each of the 95 individuals, have ACT automatically record in each of their history files that a letter was sent by whatever name it was, and automatically schedule a follow-up call to each of those people as a result of sending that letter to them. I mean, think about that. ACT is not just about follow-up, it's about follow-through. Remember when I said that the know-how is no more important or less important than the know-when? This is an example of that. Now, let's say that you want to know how I've been working with this account. Let's say MGM represents a significant portion of the revenue to our company, and I want to know what have I been doing with them. So I go to my report function in ACT, where we provide you many different types of reports, as well as the ability to custom design your own additional reports. But I want to select my activities completed. I'm going to print this to the screen in this case for your benefit, and ACT is now prompting me for what date range do I want to know what I've done with each of those individuals at MGM. Let's go back to May 1st. Tell me everything I've done with this group of individuals at MGM from May 1st through today. Notice how quickly ACT is able to draw out from me every transaction I've completed with every individual at MGM that I did anything with in that date range. You know, in the old days before ACT, it used to be easier to complain about doing reports than it was to actually do the report. Well, ACT has changed all that. In the space of 10 seconds, you've seen me retrace my steps back to May 1st. I'd rather do it than complain about doing it. Now, let's talk about another dilemma that we all face from time to time in our jobs. Has it ever happened to you that you've been notified by the receptionist in your company that a certain person's on the phone, but they didn't identify themselves by their last name? And it could be anybody. Well, let's say that I've just been notified that David's on the phone for me. What I have the capability of doing with ACT is coming to the lookup window, selecting anybody whose first name starts with the letters D-A-V-I, hitting the return key, and finding out instantly how many Davids that I do know. And ACT has informed me that there are 30 Davids in my database out of these 1,219 profiles that I work with. I now pick up the phone and say, "Hi, this is Mike. Can I help you?" And he says, "Hi, Mike. This is David Grimes." Well, here's David's profile by hitting the enter key. I know precisely what I have scheduled to do with him right now, where we last left off, the last results. I can check on screen 2 and ask him how his wife Sandy's doing. And I can also ask him if he's been golfing lately or played any blackjack out down in Las Vegas, because those are his hobbies. Now, this is the personal touch. This is going down to the level of detail that shows him how much I care about him, that I pay attention to him. And that's very important for all of us to realize in business. The more I can demonstrate to you that I care about you, that you're important to me, and that I'm here to serve you and help you in your job, the more likely you are to come back to me for further assistance and hopefully my products or services. Information, as I said, is not expensive. Ignorance is. I also like to tell people that little things don't mean a lot. Little things mean everything. Everything I can capture on an individual, every item of information about that person is very important to me because it involves them, and they're important. Now, David has called me for a reason. One of them is to schedule a meeting with me. He'd like me to get together with him for some further details that we're working on. So I'm going to schedule another meeting. Again, ACT brings up my total list of activities that I currently have scheduled with him. I want to meet with him in a week, and he'd like to meet at 10 o'clock, and it's in regards to an executive presentation to be done at his office. The meeting's going to last for 2 hours, according to him, and I accept it. And ACT has just now added that to my list. Now, David might also ask me, how busy am I going to be in the next few weeks, because there are a number of people that would like to speak with me. I can bring up this calendar, And again, by hitting the period to anchor it, tell him that between today and, let's say, the 19th of the month, everything that I currently have scheduled to do. And I know instantly that I presently have 75 calls scheduled. I can look at any of the calls in the list. I have 8 meetings, and I have 105 things to do as of this moment in time. I'm pretty busy. I also could print this out as my itinerary for the next 2 weeks and provide it to my manager, use it myself, whatever the case may be. The point is, I know precisely who I'm going to do something with over the course of the next 2.5 weeks. Now, continuing on in the lookup window, I can do searches on people's last names. I can find out everybody in the city of San Francisco, for example. If I'm going to go out to that city, I'd like to know everybody in that area that I might have an opportunity to meet with or talk with. I could look up by state, a specific zip code area. You know, Silicon Valley is an example, which is comprised of more than San Francisco, as you're well aware. As long as I'm going to take the time and expense to go out to that part of California, who is in the vicinity of Silicon Valley? And so I might want to do a search on everybody in the 9-5 vicinity. And ACT has instantly found a total of 19 people that I can now comb through to find out who out of here might I want to add to my itinerary and help further my business. I could look up things such as ID status. Find for me all of my tax clients. Find for me anybody who has a certain ID of key account. A prospect, a litigation client, whatever the case may be, however you may have identified them by a status. Now, what just happened here is another function of ACT, and this is a real crucial function of ACT. It's called the critical concept. ACT literally just interrupted me in my conversation with you, and it's informing me that I've got a critical call to make to Steve Miller at the New York Times, and it's to return a call that he's made to me. Now, I have 3 selections I can make with ACT. I can put it on a snooze alarm and say, thanks for reminding me, it is critical. I designated it as a critical call, but give me another 10 minutes so that I can do something else in the meantime. I could select forget it, meaning it's still on my calendar, but don't interrupt me again, or I could say go to his profile right now, and let's select that. So by hitting go to it, I now am on Steve Miller's profile and can make the call. The critical concept of ACT that you just saw come up with Steve Miller of the New York Times specifically is very important because it's the string around the finger. It's the situation whereby I literally don't let anything slip through the cracks that I have designated as a crucial activity that I've got to perform given all the other activities I've got scheduled and even those that are going to come in that are unscheduled. If anything needs to be done today, I've got to call Steve Miller. Meetings can also be designated as critical because you literally have to be there or someone's coming to see you. Also, to-dos can be designated as critical. Maybe my budget is due next Friday on the international market, and I need a lead time of 5 days to begin working on it. So the critical concept in ACT will notify me 5 days in advance of that specific to-do to begin to perform the work so that it's completed by its due date. The other important thing about it to mention to you is that that function can be memory resident. I literally could be working in another application, let's say Lotus 123, and in the middle of a spreadsheet operation, be notified by ACT that I've got a critical call to make to Steve Miller of the New York Times. That's power. That's not letting anything slip through the cracks. I can also have ACT perform for me a Your Criteria search. Your Criteria gives me combinations of information that I need to scan on to create a list from. For example, I might want to send a letter to everybody in the city of Dallas or Chicago and San Francisco or London who's been a customer of ours since January 1st of 1989, who's purchased in excess of $100,000 worth of our products or services, and who has the hobby of golf, because one of the things we want to indicate in this letter is that we're sponsoring a golf tournament. The point is, ACT can find for you your request. It's not limited by anything at all. Infinite request capability. ACT can also perform a keyword search. This is the literal capability of finding a needle in a haystack. Since you know that a profile is comprised of screen 1, screen 2, unlimited notes, and unlimited history, I need to find a specific word, for example, the word gold, or maybe a part number, and it could be anywhere in the profile. Through the lookup keyword search function, ACT will find every profile that has that word in it. There's nothing that you can lose in ACT. ACT also can provide me an unlimited list of various types of reports that I might need to generate. We've already seen one with the list of activities that I've performed with compact computer personnel. But I can also generate history summaries. I can find out within that list how many phone calls I've made, how many meetings I've had, how many letters I've sent, to determine if my numbers are such that it will help generate the kind of business that I need to in order to succeed. I can look at all my future activity with a group or person. I can create my itinerary, as I've mentioned earlier. I can find out the status report of everybody that meets a certain criteria of prospect, for example. In addition to the predefined reports that ACT includes, you also have the capability to design your own unique reports that are also required in your company from time to time. Further, in ACT, just to show you some of its other features, I want you to know that ACT gives you the capability to launch into another application. For example, remember when David called me? What if he needed a number from me from my spreadsheet? I was working on the budget, and he needs that number to give to his manager. I could literally be on his profile, do a file launch, go right into Lotus, load that spreadsheet, provide him the number, and then be right back on his profile when I exit Lotus 123. That's a powerful feature. I also have the capability to export and import data. I can switch and transfer information from one database to another, from one type of system to another, mainframe to micro, whatever I may need to get the information or to provide the information. Going through some of the other editing features that I haven't had time to show you, but I do want you to be aware of, ACT can update a group of individuals that you have found from the lookup capability. For example, if I look up a list of everybody that works at a particular location, because they've moved, once found, I can change the address and ACT will automatically perform for me the change of address in that entire list so that I don't have to type it in. I have the ability to turn on a timer. If I bill for my time, I can say, please calculate the elapsed time that I'm working on this particular individual. I have to track this information. I need to send a bill out at the end of the month, and one of the reports that you could design might be a billable report for services rendered. I have many options available to me in ACT. I can also edit in ACT a number of the field names. For example, maybe in your particular job you don't want to capture the field called name. You would prefer to change it to project because you work on projects as an engineer. And then when you perform a lookup, it would be lookup by project. Again, ACT adapts to the kind of job and needs that you find you're faced with day in and day out. In essence, ACT is contact software, software designed for people who deal with people. And who of us doesn't deal with people each day of our jobs? You know, Peter Drucker made the interesting comment that miracles are great, but they're so unpredictable. Isn't that true? I don't find that business just happens to come my way, and I'm sure you don't either. We have to earn the right to ask for people's business. The responsibility is ours to do the right things, to elevate ourselves to be a professional as opposed to being an amateur. Who of us doesn't prefer to deal with professionals? I do. The power of ACT and your ability to act could mean the difference in your job between success and failure. I want to thank you very much for your time. I've enjoyed it.